Hello, I'm Rick Winston, co-founder and former co-owner of Montpelier Savoy Theater, where we are right now. And I've been delighted to be asked to introduce one of my favorite films, Alfred Hitchcock's Lady Vanishes from 1938. I've been a Hitchcock fan for a very long time, ever since my parents, in their blessed ignorance, took me to see Rear Window when I was 7 years old, and there is no looking back. I've taught Hitchcock at Burlington College and a few other places. And Hitchcock is a great subject for classes because themes were constant throughout his career, his very long career. And there are always things to look for in Hitchcock films. Always things that you've never seen before on your previous viewing. When Hitchcock came to America from England in 1940, Rebecca was his very first American film, and it won the Oscar for Best Picture. It began a very illustrious and long career in America that included such classics as Notorious, Rear Window, which I mentioned, Vertigo, Psycho, just to name a few. In addition, in the 1950s, there was that TV show, some of you may be old enough to remember it, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which was an enormous hit. And it took advantage of his playfully macabre persona, and that Hitchcock himself, the physical person, became part of American popular culture. So it's really a surprise to a lot of people to find out that his career in England before coming to America was very wide and varied. It began as far back as 1923 with his first silent film. His first really successful film was in 1925, The Lodger, which is a kind of a Jack the Ripper tale. Hitchcock made the very first British sound movie called Blackmail in 1930. So by the time 1938 rolled around, when Lady Vanishes was filmed, there was already a kind of an expectation of what a Hitchcock movie was going to be, due to a combination of his growing skill in this relatively new medium, and also his relentless talent for self-promotion that was, even then, was very well honed. So what was a Hitchcock film? In Lady Vanishes, we have a virtual checkbox, what British audiences expected in 1938: intrigue, suspense, romance, humor, and what the film historian David Thompson called that particular blend of mischief and mayhem. So the script for Lady Vanishes, it's wonderfully witty. It's by a team called Frank Launder and Sidney Gilliatt. They went on to become one of England's premier writing, producing, and directing teams well into the 40s and 50s. And, you know, if you only saw the first 15 minutes of Lady Vanishes, you'd think you were in for a comedy that was making fun of various British types. The setting is somewhere in the mountains of Central Europe. The country is never identified. And the train has been held up because of an avalanche on the tracks, and all the British tourists are trapped in this hotel. They include the lady of the title, who is a British governess, slightly dotty, named Miss Froy. And I think of her somewhat as a prototype for Agatha Christie's Miss Marple. She's played by a remarkable British actress, Dame May Whitty. And Dame May Whitty was already, she had been a great institution in British theater. She went on stage in 1881, which is kind of ancient history as far as movies go. And she was the first British actress to get a damehood in 1918. So also at this hotel, there's a wealthy young woman who is having one last vacation before returning to England and to a marriage of convenience. She's played by Margaret Lockwood, who is one of the few actresses in the lead role in a Hitchcock movie who is not blonde. She's a brunette. Her male lead is Michael Redgrave, the patriarch of the Redgrave acting clan. And here he plays a traveling musicologist who is going through Europe collecting folk tunes for his thesis. And we can't forget the ones who almost steal the show, a pair of what the British call commercial travelers, Charters and Caldecott, played by Naunton Wayne and Basil Radford. They cannot wait to get back to England because they can't wait to see the test match final in their cricket game. They're complete cricket nuts, and their running commentary provides a very humorous counterpoint to the plot. They were so popular in these roles that there were 7 more movies over the next 10 years. No Hitchcock movies, but other British movies that featured this team of actors. Anyway, after setting the scene in this hotel, the first sinister element comes in with a serenader under Miss Froy's window. And then the next day, everybody is on the train, and that's where the characters and the audience are confined, and we know how Hitchcock liked confined spaces, whether it's in Lifeboat or Rope or Rear Window. The movie stays on the train until the final 3 minutes of the film, when all is revealed in an example of what Hitchcock liked to call his plot device, the MacGuffin. So why is it called the MacGuffin? Hitchcock, in his very understated British humor way, liked to tell a joke about 2 travelers on the train from London to Edinburgh. And Traveler A says to Traveler B, "What's that unusual looking suitcase you have?" And the Traveler B says, "Why, that's for a MacGuffin." Traveler A says, "Well, what's a MacGuffin?" And Traveler B says, "Well, it's an instrument for helping to catch tigers in the Scottish Highlands." Well, Traveler A says, "But there are no tigers in the Scottish Highlands." And character B, get ready for a big punchline, says, "Well, I guess it's not a MacGuffin then." So in Hitchcock's shorthand, the MacGuffin became the sign for that which the plot revolves around, but has actually no intrinsic meaning. So do we care what the spy secrets are in The Lady Vanishes? No. All we have to know is that there are spies, there are good guys, there are bad guys, there is intrigue, and there is a chase. Whether the secrets are important, it really does not matter. And what captures us is the little hints we get about the plot, whether it's Miss Froy's tea bag, whether it's the high heels on a nurse that's on board, or whether it's a little snatch of a tune. Every little incident plays a part in the plot. We also, the joy of watching this plot unfold comes from watching the chemistry of the actors, Michael Redgrave and Margaret Lockwood, as they join forces to find out why Miss Froy has disappeared on the train. Michael Redgrave in particular displays those characteristics we come to think of as your prototypical Hitchcock hero. That is the ordinary man caught up in an extraordinary situation who has to use fast thinking, bravery, resourcefulness to get to the bottom of the story. Think of Cary Grant in North by Northwest for an example. So it is possible to give a deeper meaning to The Lady Vanishes. After all, it was produced in 1938. The setting is Central Europe. The bad guys all have Central European accents. And the British characters in the movie, even though they are apolitical at first and are very naive, by the end of the movie they have banded together to do the right thing, to fight evil. And in fact, the one character who is thought on to be an appeaser is portrayed in a very unsympathetic light. So first and foremost, Lady Vanishes is an entertainment. And the French filmmaker Francois Truffaut got a chance to interview Hitchcock in the early 60s, and got the chance to ask him about every single film he ever made. And he said, I have a confession to make about Lady Vanishes. Every time I go to watch it, I say, this time I'm going to pay attention to how you achieved these particular effects in what was evidently a really tiny studio. He said, but every time I just get caught up in the plot and the characters, and I wind up saying, well, next time I'll pay closer attention to the mechanics of the film. Anyway, The Lady Vanishes from 1938. I hope it will provide you as much enjoyment as it has for me over the years.